Hello, beautiful souls. I want to start today with a question that might make you pause and think. Have you ever noticed that the people who irritate you most seem to share certain patterns? Maybe it's that coworker who always needs to be right, or that friend who constantly plays the victim, or perhaps that family member who just can't seem to take responsibility for anything. Here's what I discovered that completely changed how I see every relationship in my life. These people aren't just random annoyances placed in your path. They're mirrors, reflecting back aspects of yourself that you haven't fully acknowledged or accepted yet. Today, we're going to explore one of the most profound psychological phenomena that governs human relationships, something I call the mirror effect. This isn't about blame or judgment. It's about understanding a universal truth that, once you grasp it, will transform how you see yourself and everyone around you. We're going to dive deep into why the universe seems to keep sending you the same types of people, why certain personalities trigger you so intensely, and most importantly, how you can use this knowledge to accelerate your personal growth in ways you never imagined possible. So settle in, because what we're about to discuss might just be the missing piece you've been searching for in your journey of self-discovery. The psychology behind our triggers. Let me paint you a picture. Sarah works in an office where she constantly finds herself frustrated with her colleague Mike. Mike is always interrupting people in meetings, taking credit for ideas that aren't his, and generally dominating conversations. Sarah finds herself going home every day complaining about Mike's arrogance and self-centeredness. But here's what Sarah doesn't realize. Mike is triggering something deep within her precisely because she herself struggles with being heard and asserting her own ideas. The very quality that bothers her most about Mike, his aggressive self-promotion, is actually something she wishes she could do, but has been too afraid to express. This is the mirror effect in action. The people who trigger us most intensely are often reflecting back the parts of ourselves we've disowned, suppressed, or never fully developed. It's not that Sarah is exactly like Mike, but rather that Mike represents a shadow aspect of her personality. The part of her that wants to be bold, assertive, and unapologetic about her contributions, but has been conditioned to stay quiet and humble. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, called this our shadow self, the parts of our personality that we've pushed into our unconscious because they don't fit with our ideal self-image. The fascinating thing about shadow work is that we don't just disown negative traits, we also disown positive ones. Sometimes the people we admire or feel threatened by are showing us qualities we possess but haven't given ourselves permission to express. Think about someone in your life who really gets under your skin. Now ask yourself this uncomfortable question. What if their most annoying quality is actually something you need to do yourself in a different way? Or something you secretly wish you could do? This isn't about becoming more like the people you want. It's about recognizing that your emotional reactions are giving you valuable information about your own psyche. The hidden gifts in difficult relationships. I remember working with a client named David who was constantly frustrated with his business partner's controlling nature. Every strategy session turned into an argument. Every decision became a power struggle, and David was ready to end the partnership. But as we dug deeper, David realized something profound. His partner's controlling tendencies were actually highlighting David's own fear of taking decisive action. David had always prided himself on being collaborative and flexible, but underneath he was terrified of making the wrong choice and taking full responsibility for outcomes. His partner wasn't the problem. His partner was showing him exactly where David needed to develop more leadership courage. This is one of the most beautiful aspects of the mirror effect. Our most challenging relationships often contain our greatest opportunities for growth. The person who seems to be your biggest obstacle might actually be your greatest teacher, showing you exactly what you need to work on within yourself. When David started to see his partner as a mirror rather than an enemy, everything changed. Instead of fighting against the controlling behavior, David began to step up his own decision-making skills. He started taking more initiative, expressing his opinions more clearly, and surprisingly, his partner began to relax and become less controlling as a result. The universe potentially showing you something about yourself that needs attention, healing, or development. The key is learning to receive these gifts rather than just reacting to the packaging they come. The attraction principle. Why we draw certain people into our lives. Here's where things get really interesting. We don't just randomly encounter the people in our lives. We actually attract them based on our unconscious patterns and unresolved issues. This happens through something psychologists call repetition compulsion, our unconscious tendency to recreate familiar patterns from our past, even when those patterns caused us pain. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. Emma grew up with a father who was emotionally unavailable and critical. Throughout her adult life, she found herself repeatedly drawn to romantic partners who were similarly distant and judgmental. On a conscious level, Emma would say she wanted a warm, supportive partner, but unconsciously, she was drawn to the familiar pattern of trying to win love from someone who was withholding. The critical partners weren't just bad luck. They were mirrors, reflecting Emma's unhealed relationship with her father and her unconscious belief that love had to be earned through perfection. This pattern continued until Emma began to recognize it as a mirror. She realized that her critical partners were showing her how critically she treated herself. She was drawn to people who mirrored her own inner critic because that harsh internal voice felt familiar and normal to her. Only when Emma began to develop a more compassionate relationship with herself did she stop attracting harshly critical partners. We unconsciously seek out people who will help us replay our unfinished emotional business, giving us opportunities to heal old wounds or develop missing aspects of our personality. So how do you actually use this mirror effect to transform your life? The first step is developing what I call curious compassion toward the people who trigger you most. Instead of immediately judging them or trying to change them, get curious about what they might be reflecting back to you. This doesn't mean accepting bad behavior or staying in toxic relationships. It means extracting the psychological gold before you decide how to respond. When someone irritates you, ask yourself these powerful questions. What specific quality about this person bothers me most? How might I exhibit this same quality in a different way? What would it look like if I expressed the positive aspect of this trait? If this person is my teacher, what might they be trying to show me about myself? These questions will begin to shift you from victim mode into growth mode, transforming every difficult interaction into a potential breakthrough. Remember, the goal isn't to become more like the people who annoy you, but to integrate the disowned aspects of yourself in healthy ways. If someone's assertiveness bothers you, perhaps you need to develop healthy boundaries. If someone's selfishness triggers you, maybe you need to learn to prioritize your own needs sometimes. If someone's emotional expression makes you uncomfortable, you might need to get more in touch with your own feelings. Your mirror, your growth. The mirror effect is one of the most powerful tools for personal growth because it's always available to you. Every person you encounter, every interaction you have, every emotional reaction you experience is giving you information about your inner world. When you begin to see your relationships as mirrors rather than mere social connections, you transform from someone who simply reacts to life into someone who consciously uses life experiences for continuous self-discovery and growth. This perspective will change everything. Your judgments will soften, your curiosity will increase, and your capacity for both self-acceptance and personal transformation will expand dramatically. You'll begin to see that there are no difficult people, only people who are reflecting back aspects of the human experience that you haven't fully integrated yet. So I challenge you this week to practice mirror work with someone who triggers you. Instead of focusing on changing them or avoiding them, get curious about what they might be showing you about yourself. You might be surprised by the insights they bring and the growth that follows. If this perspective opened up something new for you, I'd love for you to hit that like button and let me know in the comments which relationship you're going to view as a mirror this week. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the psychology of personal transformation. Until next time, remember, everyone you meet is your teacher, and every trigger is your treasure.